BC, you have been hit hard with a lot of that winter snow. This is a look at Squamish. Thank you so much for sending this in. This is as the clouds lift after the first significant snowfall of 2020. It looks absolutely gorgeous, actually. So we love seeing your videos and photos. Go to @Sonia Sache or @Weather Network and help us tell those stories. But let's take a look at what's happening right now in BC. So there was a bit of a break. There is a low pressure system making its way through, bringing with that rain along the coast, but also snow into Vancouver and the lower mainland. I'm going to break that down further. Along the coast, we'll see up to 20 millimeters of that rain all the way through. But then, because of the Arctic air being pulled down to the south, that is what's really, and combining that with the low pressure system, that's what's bringing snow through to Victoria, Vancouver, etc. So how much snow? Well, Vancouver, you could see up to 6 centimeters of snow. Abbotsford, you could see up to 10 centimeters of snow. And then in between Burnaby, Coquitlam, you could see up to 15 centimeters or more through to Sunday. In saying that, if you are driving through the Coke, as an example, it's going to be a tricky drive, so please be careful if you're going through the mountain passes. Again, be mindful of that. Also, along with that, as that low makes its way through, connecting along the coast, wind gusts. So along the coast, over 60-kilometer-per-hour winds. Along the Strait, 70 and over 60-kilometer-per-hour winds through to the evening, making even ferry travel tricky. This is what the next couple of days looks like. Now talk about that cold. Prairies, well, for the most part, you're just going to get a small swath of snow through the region, but nothing really too significant. So that's the positive news. So Calgary, just a dusting, just less than 2 centimeters of that snow through to your Sunday. The big news, though, again, is the Arctic air being pulled down to the south. And this is without the wind chill values. It's going to be Calgary minus 28, Edmonton minus 29. You want to see what that looks like with the wind chill? Eesh, it's going to feel like minus 30. Minus 37, almost minus 40 going into your Sunday and Monday morning. So really that is the story for the prairies. Ontario, we have a lot of those freezing rain and winter storm warnings. We'll have more of that as the evening goes through. And again, with that are flood warnings in effect, but your locals are now. It came down pretty fast, and with a vengeance, it's going to continue. Hi there, I'm Sonia Sache. We do have some freezing rain warnings in effect, and we do have all the way from Windsor through to Hamilton and Toronto. We have that winter storm warning, rainfall warnings as well. So we could see huge amounts. There are flood warnings as well, courtesy of Toronto and Regional Conservation Authority along the Don River, so the DVP. We saw that several years ago. So if you are driving, please be careful. Take your time. This is why we have that low pressure system making its way through, wreaking havoc. This is from Texas, bringing with it a lot of that moisture, and it's going to be really, really windy as that system makes its way through. So Toronto in general, the southern Ontario, we were in the pluses. We were at 11.9. We broke some records, but then within a few hours, temperatures decreased up to 4 degrees in 10 minutes. So in saying that, we have a lot of that rainfall that's going to be running through with that freezing rain. So 401, 400, Highway 7 will be compromised, tricky to drive on. Anywhere north of the 401 could see that freezing rain tonight going into tomorrow. That freezing rain dips south going into tonight, and tomorrow to the north is where we're going to see most of that snowfall continuing going into even Sunday afternoon. Toronto, though, could see a mix going into tomorrow morning, so it's not as though the system passes, so please be careful. This is an additional rainfall total. Right now we've seen over 60 millimeters of rainfall. We could see another 30 to 50 millimeters going into tomorrow afternoon. But here is Jacqueline with more on that story. So not definite, not a lot of that. But let's talk about that record-breaking cold. So that Arctic outflow, this is what's happening. So it's meeting a low pressure system, and that is what's bringing snow to to the lower mainland and Vancouver. So let's take a look at the numbers. Vancouver through to Sunday, you could see up to 6 centimeters of snow. Abbotsford, you could see up to 10 centimeters of snow falling. The Coke, you could see over 15, maybe even 30 in the mountain passes of snow. So again, if you are traveling along that edge or along the mountain passes, please be careful. Even Paulson Summit through to the Kootenay Pass could be pretty tricky going into your Sunday. Also, the story is the wind gusts. We could see along this straight over 70-kilometer-per-hour winds going into your Sunday evening. BC, it's going to be snow all the way through to your Saturday as that low pressure system makes its way through. Much of the same for Victoria. But let's take a look at Manitoba, where they had a lot of that snowfall as well. But again, for the next few days, well, not much to talk about. Maybe a swath of snow, very, very small amounts, less than 2 centimeters going into Calgary. But it's really the freezing cold that we have to contend with, but your locals are now. And certain parts of Ontario have already seen that freezing rain, and that is going to continue. So we do have some freezing rain warnings in effect. We also have some rainfall warnings in effect to southern Ontario. So if you do not need to be on the road today, probably a good idea not to be. The DVP is an example where the Don River is. We do have some flooding alerts as well. Another tidbit is if you don't need to be bathing and showering, please don't. You're going to put some extra strain on the sewage system. But this system is making its way through, bringing with that, again, a lot of wind gusts. Certain areas could see over 70, 80 kilometer-per-hour winds. Toronto over 50 kilometer-per-hour winds going into tomorrow. We did break a lot of records today. The temperatures completely dropped. And with that is bringing with it some freezing rain warnings and a lot of that rainfall accumulation. But here is Mark Robinson from earlier Saturday evening to talk about that ice accretion. Thank you, Mark, for that. Now, that system that is making its way through Ontario is going to make its way through the Atlantic provinces of Canada. So Yarmouth, Halifax, that will be mostly rain. But Fredericton all the way through to Sydney, you could see a lot of that freezing rain as well. And then some ice pellets through Charlottetown and Sydney going into your Sunday morning. So again, that freezing rain potential is very high going into Sunday and Monday. And with that, again, is that wind gust. BC, we have a low pressure system that is meeting that Arctic air, and that is bringing snow, first rain along the coast, but then snow through to Vancouver and also the lower mainland. So Vancouver, you could see up to 6 centimeters of snowfall. Abbotsford, you could see up to 10 centimeters of snowfall through to Sunday, making the mountain passes definitely tricky to drive on. The wind gusts get stronger as that low pressure system makes its way through. So again, please be mindful of that. But your local weather is right now. And it looks beautiful, though, when you're sitting outside or sitting inside with your cup of hot coffee or cocoa and not driving in that. Hi there, I am Sonia Sache. Right now, it is really the Arctic outflow that meets up with this low pressure system that is bringing with it snow to the lower mainland. So Vancouver, you could see up to 3 to 6 centimeters going into your Sunday. Abbotsford, close to 10 centimeters. Burnaby, Coquitlam, you could see over 15 centimeters. What does that mean? Well, especially in the higher elevated areas and through the mountain passes, the Coke, as an example, could see 30 centimeters of snow through to Sunday. Driving is going to be tricky. But when we talk about the freezing levels as they lower or when they increase, what do we mean by that? Here is our very own Tyler in the Forecast Center to explain the details. Thank you, Tyler. Now, the prairies, we do have these two lows, but really not impactful whatsoever. It might bring less than 2 centimeters into Calgary and Edmonton through to Sunday. But the real story here is the temperature. So without the wind chill, Edmonton, you're dipping all the way down close to minus 30. With the wind chill, it's going to feel like minus 40 in certain areas all the way into your Sunday evening, into the overnight. Moving into Ontario, we have a system that is bringing with it rainfall warnings, freezing rain warnings going into tonight and into tomorrow. Along with that is some flooding, but your local weather is now.
More on the way in terms of snow, but freezing rain, ice pellets, there's a threat there as well for that as we head into Sunday. I'm Daksha Rangan, joined tonight by Sonia Sache.
Yes, hello.
Hello, and Sonia, as you mentioned, we're both kind of covering different parts of the country tonight because there's lots to talk about in terms of the active weather.
Nationwide, storm after storm, right?
And starting with Ontario, I mean, significant rainfall, what we saw on Saturday, and this is as of 7 p.m. local time, so we're expecting these numbers to climb as we head into the overnight hours, but upwards of 70 millimeters of rain for some areas. The Grand River Conservation Authority as well, the Toronto Region Conservation Authority have both issued flood warnings in the wake of the significant rainfall that we have seen. Now, as we head into the overnight hours, we're going to continue to see that rainfall. It's going to transition to freezing rain for some areas, ice pellets as well, and as we head further north, we're talking about snow, and that's going to stretch into central Quebec, Atlantic Canada
what a
too.
Mess.
I know, certainly, and that's a really good point because, Sonia, the travel conditions are something we've been really stressing. They're going to deteriorate, especially for Atlantic Canada, through the day on Sunday, so you really want to avoid travel if you can. Ice pellets, freezing rain, some of the main threats, but also snow for parts of the Maritimes.
Right, snow is definitely the consideration even for BC, so we have this Arctic flow that is making its way down the coast. What is that doing? Well, it's colliding with the low pressure system, bringing, as you said, Daksha, that snow. Where are we seeing that snow? Lower mainland, so Vancouver, we could see up to 6 centimeters of snow. Even Abbotsford could see over 10 centimeters of snow through to Sunday. If you are driving through the mountain passes, please be careful. The Coke could see up to 30 centimeters of snowfall through the mountain passes again through to Sunday. So really treacherous driving conditions even through Paulson Summit down to Kootenay Pass, again making its way through. The other story is the wind. The wind gusts through the strait could vary between over 60 kilometer per hour to 70 kilometer per hour winds, and along the coast, again, over 60 kilometer per hour winds.
Now, Sonia, across the prairies, we're also talking about a blast of Arctic air, temperatures into the -20s. We'll have more on this coming up next.